I don't remember exactly what happened. I do remember that a part of my experience was I went to foster care, right? And I met Catholics. And I thought that a lot of Catholics had a lot of like spiritual fruit. So I was like, how can Catholicism be wrong and meetings be right when these Catholics have more fruit of God in their life than the people in the meetings? So I just was like, okay, well, there's something not fitting in this picture. Like, and I've always been a person to kind of question things like that, but I think that was kind of my first like eye-opening experience of like, who decided we're right? Who decided this is the right way? Um, but yeah, I think I just ended up leaving because I was just like in foster care and I just moved so much that I just kind of like fell out. But and then when I became an adult, I was with my daughter's dad and he wasn't a meeting goer or anything. So I didn't go. And then my ex-husband took me to the worldly church. So
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth to Heals podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today we have a special guest. She is a former cult member, cult survivor from a cult that is not that well known, but it's being on the news more and more. They're known as sometimes the truth or 2x2, something like that. Well, we're going to get into that in this interview, but also we're going to be talking a bit more about this with the guest today. So let me introduce the guest. Our guest today is from TikTok, known as the little engine that could, but she also goes by Anna. That's the name. That's her. Oh my gosh, I'm butchering this. Anyways, I'm here with Anna, aka the little engine that could, former cult survivor from The Truth 2x2. Welcome to the podcast, man. How are you doing, Anna?
yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
It's
It's really great to be here.
it's great to have you on the podcast. Finally, we've been talking for a while,
I
and
know.
you're actually the second ex-member to be on this podcast who is also from two, is it 2x2 or the 2x2 or the truth? What?
Yeah, yeah, yep. Yep, yeah, I find that really interesting because it's so rare. I think it's so cool that you have already like so what did you already learn about it?
Some things that I learned were like there was no official name to the church, that they would like gather like in the household, but that like I think once a year they would have like these big like
Mm-hmm.
get-togethers where everyone would like meet up. Um, so does that sound? And that was in
Oh yeah.
Australia, but in America, was it the same experience? Was it similar?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was like we met in the home. There were certain elders that would have the meetings in their homes. We called them meetings, by the way. It wasn't like church. I mean, you could call it church, but we called it meeting. Um, and those elders would hold Sunday morning meetings, and then we would also have like a Wednesday Bible study. So, and I don't know, like Sunday was usually at the same spot, but Wednesday would rotate. And then, like we didn't have a priest or anything. We just had workers, and they were people that would travel all over. And yeah, I would go to the conventions. I loved convention for the longest time. Looked forward to it.
Cool. So were you born into this, or was this something that your family got involved in later on?
No, I was born into it. Yep. And yeah, I think it started with my grandma. I think it was my grandma, and then my grandma brought my grandpa into it. And then my mom was born into it. She actually became a worker. My mom was a worker. So,
So when you say worker, is that like kind of like being a nun, kind of, or
yes, because so like actually worker it kind of does equate because like workers weren't allowed to be married. Um they weren't, they were celibate. Um they would just travel all the time, so like you couldn't have a family or anything. So, yeah.
so as a kid, were you like, hot damn, when I become a woman, I'm gonna be a worker?
You know what's so funny? I used to play like meeting with my cousins and stuff. Like we would play meeting. I wanted to be a preacher. Like that was like I did want to be a worker when I was a kid. I was like, that's what I meant to do.
Okay, so as a kid, you'd play, what was it called again?
Meeting.
Okay, you play meeting. I was gonna say mass, but it's not mass. You play
Is that
meeting.
is that
Would you have like do you remember some of like your spiels? Like do you remember some of like your preaching?
Yeah, well, oh gosh. You're trying to embarrass me. So I like I mean it would always just come from the Bible. And I've just always felt like I'm naturally gifted with like parables, and like I just had a really profound understanding of a lot of this stuff at a young age. Gosh, I can't remember any of the actual testimonies I gave though. Like I I do remember we would do like the bread and the wine because like you couldn't do that until you were baptized. So when kids were in meetings, they couldn't partake unless they were baptized and had already professed and everything. So, yeah, but gosh, now you really got me thinking, what did I even talk about?
Like would you
Or what
be
was
like
it was always the Bible though, like I would just take a verse. I mean, that's what I was trained in at least is like speaking from a verse. Like you read a verse and then you preach what God puts on your heart. And like I do remember testimonies I gave, like when I professed, but when I would play meeting,
like
I just know like I would read a verse and I would equate it to something in my life. Like um I can't think of any specifics, but like my social circle, like things would happen, people would say things, and I would read a verse and God would like bring that to my mind and connect it, and he'd be like, see, that's that moment. Like this is what it means to be a light in a dark world, or
Mhm.
like whatever the verse was,
Yeah.
it would just tie in with my life somehow.
So it sounds like you had a very like a positive uh connection with the Bible and scriptures.
I did, yeah, I really did.
Uh
Yep.
so being in the truth or the two by two um this group, they don't officially call themselves a church, but from what you're saying, it sounds very churchy. Would you
I
agree?
know. So yeah, it is because even like the structure of it, it's like I think the first thing that we would do is sing hymns. So like it's just like in church, like because I'm fortunate enough to have had a lot of variety of experiences. I've been to the meetings, I've been to church, and I'm now into spirituality. So like I know that like I can see how it's all related. I can see how it all is the same, I guess. Like it's all the same thing with different words or in a different language. But yeah, like because you would go there, you would sing hymns, like I think one or two hymns, then you would do prayer, and then you would sing again, and then you would give your testimony, and then you would sing again. Church is like songs, sermon, more songs. Well, they have like prayer too, and they have like the communion at times. So
So it follows that very church style formula, like
yeah,
you're saying, but it's not actually in a church structure, correct?
no, it's not. It's in homes, like people don't even know about it unless you're invited or born into it.
Okay, and like, I know you aspired to be a worker. Did the workers, so the workers are men and women, or are they only women?
Men and women.
And are they the same as elders, or is that a totally different thing?
That's a different because like elders have families, um, jobs and stuff. The workers don't. They just travel. So I mean they obviously have a mom and a dad and stuff, but like but not, a wife, kids, that type of thing.
Yes. Okay. So I'm just trying to like get enough information. So I want to give a fair interview to be understanding and to really just be fair.
Yeah.
Um, and so for you, like you were really into it. You loved these conventions. What was it
Yeah.
that you loved about the conventions?
Um, probably not the right things, but I did also just love like because they would do like sings. It was good food. Um, I got to see a lot of family because, like a lot of my distant family was part of it. Um, there was a point that I definitely appreciated the fact that it was like we were in our own world, like away from everyone else. And it felt right. It felt like, at the time, it's hard to like connect with that because I'm so far from it. Um, but it felt like that was what God wanted, like I was feeding my soul. I was like feeding my relationship with God, and it made me feel very fulfilled when I would leave. So
Did you feel better being at the convention or after leaving the convention?
I felt better being in the convention, but even experiencing the convention and then like leaving, like it was different. It was like you carried it with you, like all that you heard, all that there's a lot that would inspire me. I learn a lot about God
Mhm.
in those meetings too. So I got to carry that with when I would leave. So
So like the unfortunate thing, or I don't know if it's unfortunate, maybe a mix of unfortunate and fortunate, is that in these either church or cult settings, yeah, there's a lot of negativity that happens behind the scenes. But at the same time, what makes it so hard for some people to leave, especially like a toxic environment, is that sometimes there are a lot of good experiences. And you were saying
yeah.
just a moment ago that feeling of nourishment. And you know, going back to before we hit the record button, and for the audience who's listening, we were talking about like when someone is either trying to leave, not necessarily a faith, but maybe an environment, maybe a culty environment or a toxic environment. There is a bit of like a toxic Christianity we're talking about, where you want to leave, but then they'll be saying there are individuals who might be saying to you, well, there were good times, or like, I don't know, what were some other examples that we were talking about?
Well, so like the toxic Christianity that I was talking about is just um, like a lot of Christians, when people, and I was one of them, but like when people are going through hard things, they have these like blanket statements.
Mm,
And I don't think that it's intended to invalidate someone. I think people really think like, this is how I help. But it just ends up being very invalidating. Like if you're going through a hard time and people are like telling you, God is there for you, or like you are not alone, you always have God, like that type of stuff, like it's kind of like something like brushing stuff off. And like we were talking too, um it's like people don't want to address the bad. Like a lot of Christianity is only positive. Like you're supposed to always have joy. You're supposed to always be at peace. You're supposed to always be grateful. Like all of these things. But we're humans. We feel loss. We feel anger. We feel all kinds of things. And it kind of like denies you that right to be human, to like feel that loss or to feel alone. Like I can have a relationship with God and still feel alone. Like I don't know. I actually was thinking about this recently because I think it was I'm trying to think of which person in the Bible, but there was someone in the Bible who was being sought after by like all of their enemies. And they were alone and they were scared and they were like everything and they were crying out to God, you know? Like, and I think that so often in Christianity, people just think that you're not supposed to feel those emotions. And that's horrible for people. You're literally like dividing them from themselves, like part of their humanity, saying, like, this part of me is not okay. This part of me is doesn't fit. So,
And was that something that was like everyone had that kind of that behavior of it's kind of like watering down someone else's negative experiences. Like for example, I'll give an example. Losing a loved one. There's that sorrow, there's that pain, there's even maybe there's a little confusion on faith as to why would God allow this to happen. And then so there's these human questions. Really, you're having these human emotions, but then someone will come to you and say something like, "Well, all you need is God."
yep.
Like for me, I feel like it's kind of rehearsed, and what you were saying, before, it's even invalidating. It doesn't give permission for the person to be human. Um,
Yeah.
how did you navigate through that that mindset, because or that lifestyle?
Oh my gosh. Well, so like the particular Christianity I grew up with, like it was very strict, like you weren't supposed to wear pants, you weren't supposed to cut your hair, you weren't supposed to wear jewelry, you weren't supposed to go to theaters. Like everything was worldly. And it made it hard because I wanted a lot of things. Like, I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be a part of things. I wanted to, I loved fashion and I wanted to wear pants and I wanted to wear jewelry. I loved jewelry. I actually ended up piercing my ears when I was 13, and that was kind of what started the whole like descent. But anyway, rebellion. No, but no, so like really though, like it made me feel like things I wanted were not important. And I would literally like put my desires aside. Like I was literally taught like it doesn't matter what you want, it's what God wants. And so I would just like, well, I can't have that. So I can't want that. So I was so divided in myself. And I had a lot of like shame and a lot of fear and I had a lot of conflict inside. Just a lack of peace because I wanted things that I wasn't supposed to have all the time. I wanted to watch movies. I loved watching movies, you know? So I like hid stuff. So like I would have one part of me that was at the meetings and then another part of me that was at school and like I was so divided and it was not fun. I don't know. Can't think of any stronger language right now, but I think that it broke parts of me, you know?
And so you're saying like at 13 you get your piercings.
Yeah.
That's the beginning of your rebellion.
Yeah.
You also mentioned that you enjoyed movies, fashion, and all those things. The movies that you were watching, were they like good Christian movies or Hallmark?
Well, so okay, so when I was growing up, I actually like didn't watch many movies. It was mostly Bible tapes, mostly. Okay, but then like every now and then I would watch something. I think like one of the first movies I ever saw was I think it's called House of Cards. It's about an autistic girl. Because we had I had like a father figure friend in my life. And he would bring movies that he thought were like of substance, like they may not have been Christian movies, but they were good
Wholesome.
movies. So um I'm trying to think of what else. Because like as a kid I watched Barney at my like when my mom was nannying. I do remember watching Barney and like the couch show. I don't even know what that one is. But it's like a doll, like a grown doll or something. Um, but like my first theater movie, I think that was Snow Dogs too.
Well, so
And
you were old. So how old were you when you started watching like normal movies?
I can't even, my first movie in the theater was Snow Dogs. That I know. I used to go to the IMAX though. And that was actually some people from the meetings that took me there. But that was just like nature
Mm.
documentaries. But it was like a giant screen and it
Yeah,
felt like you were
there.
there, you know?
So like the group wasn't totally against all forms of movies and videos, but or like I mean, you can watch like National Geographics, I'm guessing. And
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because like even in the cult I grew up in, like every family was different. Like there were families that watched tons of movies, like did all like they lived a double life. They would go to the meetings, be one way, go home, be like everyone else.
Mhm.
Um, I think my mom, it was a little different because she was a worker. So like she was really like all in.
Yeah.
Like my mom was not a person that when meetings were over, she would go put pants on. She always wears skirts. Like if she ever wears shorts or pants, it's like take a picture because you'll never see it.
S- So like okay, so and I know your family was very observant of all like the rules, and I guess you could be considered a good example of a faithful two by two.
Yeah.
Um, and but for others who were not, would there be like penalties, like in Jehovah Witnesses or in others, how like they get shamed or they'll get even like ostracized? Was there any of that, or
Yeah, so that's the thing that is so interesting to me is like there wasn't really any accountability. And I think that was always part of the problem. Like because what ended up making it known as a cult was there were workers that were sexually abusing kids and like it would get swept under the rug because well they're workers and nobody wanted to speak out against them. So they got away with all kinds of stuff just because they're workers, you know.
These workers that they started to use their power or use their position to sadly sexually abuse. Um, I'm guessing this is happening to kids.
Yeah, so I don't have a ton of details on it, but it's actually like I actually saw something recently that there's actually been some convictions and there's like a lot of like charges, like hundreds.
So were the elders in the church or not church or in the yeah, in the community, were the elders telling people to keep this hush hush, or
So
were
I didn't know of that personally, but I knew someone who told me that they have experienced hush hush type stuff.
wow.
You know, so yeah, like my experience of it, like I've told my mom about it, right? My mom is still very into it. And she just says, "Oh, well, there's evil everywhere." You know, like yeah. So
And when you hear that, what do you think?
she's brainwashed. I think that's what I think. Like, wow, you're far gone. I don't I don't know how to like I don't know how to respond to that because it's her relationship with God. I'm not trying to interfere, and I trust God with it. But yeah, to me, it's like, how can you justify supporting this still when the leaders are being charged with sexual abuse?
And were they getting moved around, like which sadly happened also with Catholics, where they're moving around people?
I'm not, like when they were abusing,
Mhm.
well, they would travel, so like
Um,
I don't know even a lot of details, but like the workers travel all over the world, so it could have happened anywhere.
okay, so for those who are in the audience, I have another episode on this topic, more with it's with Laura from the 2x2 from Australia. We get into it more on that episode, so go and check that out. I'll leave it in the show notes. But now I'll continue here with Anna. Now getting back to your story, you grew up, like you said earlier, you started having your rebellion stage, but it doesn't sound like you were rebelling from faith itself. I mean, it still sounds like you have faith and even I don't want to say a connection, but I would dare say even a relationship with your faith and with God. But it doesn't sound like you have any more of a connection with the 2x2. What
No,
happened?
I don't. So actually, I was gonna kind of backtrack because you had mentioned about the penalties. Like that was kind of something I experienced because so when I did like pierce my ears and stuff, I'm pretty sure that's when they asked me not to speak in meetings because I made my choice at like 8 years old. So I was giving my testimony at 8 years old up until like 13 when I finally pierced my ears and all that stuff. And then they told me like so. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Or they may have even said not to go to the meetings, but I've been to meetings since then, so I'm not sure. But
So did you feel like the eyes were on you, like after you got your ears pierced? Like, did you like sometimes like in my experience, like I got a lot of false like testimonies, or I'll get like, yeah, like people say bullshit. and like of me accusations of me doing things inside of the cult, like hey, he slept extra. I don't know, just like stupid things, and I would feel like people looking at me inside the cult, like I'm being watched and observed, and I could even feel like they would say it's Christ's love, but no, it's bullshit. It was actually just people being judgmental and hateful. Did you feel a bit of that in your atmosphere, being in these like church settings?
I did. I felt a little rejected, like they didn't accept me. Um, and I also like at some point one of the elders actually accused me of stealing from their house. I that was kind of hurtful for me. Like I remember that. Like I was like, why did they think I stole from their house?
From an elder?
Yeah. Yeah, there was something I can't remember because like I remember them calling about it
W-
and I was
w-
like,
Was this elder like older?
it was an older, yeah.
Like,
Well, a lot of the elders were older, but
but like, could it have been like dementia or something?
yeah, I have no idea. I don't even remember if it was like what it was or what resolved it, but I know my mom, like she did back me up and she was like, Anna would not steal. Like, what do you why like what is this, you know?
Did your mom get heat for defending you?
I don't know that she did because she's very respected amongst them. She was a worker, so they kind of do look down on her, I think, because of like her mental health stuff sometimes. But otherwise, there's a, a like sense of respect because of her time in the work.
Yeah, she's put in a lot of time, a lot of work.
Yeah,
I can sense that. Um,
yeah,
but like for you, what I know there was that feeling of being rejected, and it's a nasty feeling. What was going on through your younger mind? Because this is something where, people get rejected with love, like love interests. I mean, I've had my lots of rejections. You learn from that, you move on. But it's different when it's someone who, or a group of people who you are expecting to care for you. You're expecting them to. They're like a family. So to be
yeah,
rejected by them, how did you process that?
yeah. Well, it was hard, uh, but like I would say like it definitely made me feel like I would search for a place to belong more. I already struggled with that a lot because of my childhood. Um, but I don't know. Like my thing was I think it really made me think like God didn't accept me, you know? Like as I was, right? Like it felt like I had to be perfect to be accepted by God. I was raised that I was supposed to be like Jesus. So I just was like, well, I'm just not holy enough. Like, and it just kind of made me chip away at myself, like, okay, this is not like God, this is not like God, this is not like God. And I don't know, like when I say chip away, like now I kind of think it was like all things I would suppress, because I don't think it went anywhere. It was still there. I just was like, okay, well, that's not of God, so I need to get rid of it. So I would pray about it and stuff and ask God to remove it. It was still there all the time. And I don't know, like at some point I realized that that's who I was and that didn't need to be changed, but that took years because most of the time, like I was just so sure that everything about me needed to change, nothing was good enough, all that stuff. So
And not to cut this short, but for this part of the story, how did you end up leaving?
Yeah, so I mean, like I pierced my ears, so I kind of like mentally left already. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like I don't remember exactly what happened. I do remember that a part of my experience was I went to foster care, right? And I met Catholics. And I thought that a lot of Catholics had a lot of like spiritual fruit. So I was like, how can Catholicism be wrong and meetings be right when these Catholics have more fruit of God in their life than the people in the meetings? So I just was like, okay, well, there's something not fitting in this picture. Like, and I've always been a person to kind of question things like that, but I think that was kind of my first like eye-opening experience of like, who decided we're right? Who decided this is the right way? Um, but yeah, I think I just ended up leaving because I was just like in foster care and I just moved so much that I just kind of like fell out. But and then when I became an adult, I was with my daughter's dad and he wasn't a meeting goer or anything. So I didn't go. And then my ex-husband took me to the worldly church. So
What do you mean by the worldly church?
that's just what we called it. It was like a normal church, you
Yeah.
know? That's just, yeah. That was what we called it though, was worldly church. And it was a big move for me. Like I was afraid. Like I was like, I don't know, this ain't right. I'm not supposed to be here. Like the whole time I was there, but it felt right when I got there and then when I opened my mind to it, like the people were so loving and I received God in such a different way than I did in the meetings. And I was just slowly started to realize like there's nothing wrong with church. Like it's not ungodly. So
But there's some people who like after they leave a cult, they will completely, there's a thing called, deconstruction. And
yeah.
I get that, like I totally get that. Um, but sometimes it goes so far that there's no more faith at all, which, if that's where someone wants to go. I'm not here to tell anybody how to deconstruct or reconstruct or how to believe, how not to believe. But in your experience, you did find a place where you could feel safe and have that relationship. How much of a difference does it feel now in your faith journey compared to when you're involved in the truth?
It's so different. For one, I no longer have somebody telling me who God is or how God works. Like I'm just fully experiencing him. Um, for two, like I'm learning to love myself finally and like accept myself and realize that I'm enough as I am, that God accepts me as I am, like all of those things. And it's been very freeing and very enlightening and has given me the ability to not be at war with myself. So I have so much more peace. And yeah.
Well, hey, Anna, thank you so much for sharing about your journey, your experiences, a bit about what happened inside, also with the workers, and sadly about, the abuses that happened. Thank you for giving us this information. But I guess on the bright side, there's some convictions, so there's some justice being served.
Yeah, there
Because
always is. Yeah.
because I don't care what religion or not religion a person is, left or right. If you're abusing somebody, especially in that form, like or to especially to a child, I don't care if you're a priest or whoever, pastor. There needs to be justice, and it's not
Agreed.
it sounds like finally something is happening. A little bit late, but at least something is happening.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely believe that God is just and that he knows and he makes sure that the truth comes out and yeah.
And so, are you ready for the last part of the podcast?
Oh gosh, I forgot already.
Forgot. Oh my
I
God.
mean, well, like I know, but like I wasn't even like I'm still not prepared even though we
It's
kind
okay.
of prepped.
Okay, so I ask each guest the same question, and don't worry, it's not going to be a math question. It's not going to be
I know,
anything
I know, I know.
difficult. But my question is, Anna, what is your truth that heals?
Ooh, yeah. So there's so many. So I'm just gonna give you one and whoever's meant to hear it, hopefully they'll hear it. I would just say that the truth that healed me the most was that um, that God does that I'm enough. That God does love me as I am. Um, and that like loving myself is actually the way to an authentic relationship with God. So, yeah.
All right, beautiful. Sharing about authenticity and also from what I get from that is it's not just accepting oneself like a blanket, I'll accept oneself, but
Right.
I think it's also that comes from knowing oneself. If
Yeah.
you know yourself, you're able to finally accept yourself, and by accepting yourself, you're able to love yourself. And from hearing your story, we can hear your journey of being in a place where you couldn't know yourself because any form of expression, whether it was your desires to be into fashion or whatever it was, jewelry, or even singing, because we had a little bit of a chit chat before that,
Yeah. Yeah.
before this. This is you. This is authentically you. But in the place you're in, that wasn't able to shine. Now you're able to know who you are, know what are your likes, know what your interests are, and by knowing it, by knowing who you are, you're totally able to accept yourself, to love yourself. And I think that if a person really does have a relationship with God, me personally, I'm thinking, well, yeah, you want to know God, but you also want to know yourself because you want to
Yeah.
know about
They're
yourself.
very related. I absolutely believe that like you can't know God. So like I really feel like until you love yourself, you can't love God. You can't know God until you love yourself. Because so like what I was saying, like I was so divided, like I denied my humanity. When I like finally like accepted that like I'm a human and like I suck in certain ways, but like God loves me type of thing, like then I saw God differently too. Like I don't know how to even explain it. I'm struggling to like explain it, but it's just been like the more that I've accepted my humanity, the
Mm.
more because the goal is to be like Jesus, right? But it's not a like doing, it's a being. And it happens naturally when you fully are human. That's when God steps in because God doesn't want you glorified. Like he's going to glorify himself through you. So when you accept your humanity and you're just being a mess, it invites God to actually work in your life and to make you into his image. So,
Well, that really like brings to my mind an experience that we had in the cult that I was in, and maybe you might also connect. I don't know, but in one of our books that we had for the members, it would say rights and duties. You have none. You have no rights or duties. All you have to do is obey. and then they would say, but then like there'd be like, it would also say, but don't complain. Don't say we're like robots. We're not like robots. We're all individuals. But you see how it's like it contradicts itself because on one hand,
Mixed message, yeah.
it's a mixed message. But what I'm hearing from you is, well, like what I get from all this is that like in culty environments, you are kind of being like formed to be like a robot and like programmed not to have emotions, not to have interests, not to have likes, just to be like a generic model, just to be as they want you to be.
Mhm.
But I don't know how like getting into humanity, it's I don't know, like being human, it's like it's okay. I feel like nothing wrong with it. And but before it was seen as like evil. Oh, like
Yeah.
you want to have friends? They'll say you want to have friends. Oh, that's evil. It's like
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. It's been a process of like letting myself fail and like understanding that failure is success. Like it's part of the process. Making a mess, all of it, it's a learning experience.
well, thank you so much for teaching us
Yeah.
a lot today. And one more thing that you can teach us, maybe you can teach me one of these days, is a bit about fashion. So I'm
Oh
plugging this
yeah.
in because our dear Anna here has some fashion business. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so I have been in business now, I want to say 2 years, and I am building a business as a style and image consultant. So I help people like dress for their body, find their like best colors, color analysis. I do closet clean out. I do shopping. I have like wedding styling packages, professional packages, personal packages. And my tagline, you'll never guess it, it's aligning and elevating people and businesses one closet at a time.
Nice. So where can
Yeah.
people find information about this?
So I do have a Facebook page called Amethyst Rising. And then I do have a TikTok as well called Amethyst Rising. It might be Designs Co. I haven't been on there in a while. I actually like lost focus for a bit. I just did my Valentine's video though, so I'm proud of myself. Um, just did like examples of the different style personalities because there's 5 basic style personalities, and so I did an outfit for each style personality for Valentine's Day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you for sharing, and I'll leave that information in the show notes. Amethyst Rising. There's no website, or is there a website?
There is a website, but it's a Google site, so I don't have like a domain, unfortunately.
Okay,
And
so
it's like a bunch of numbers and letters. So I can send it to you if you still want to put it out.
okay, and then tell me, and then I'll share like the Facebook and yeah.
Yeah, that
So,
would be
anyways,
great.
people in the audience,
Awesome.
you need help with your fashion. You think your fashion sucks? Don't worry. I'm doing like a little commercial. I feel like this is like a good practice for me.
Yeah, maybe I
No,
should hire you.
yeah, shoot. Don't worry. Anna is here to save the day, one closet at a time.
Need a
Uh,
cape.
sh- yeah, I need a cape, and yeah, would love to work with you too. So
Yeah.
yeah, people in the audience, you want a professional fashion helper? Go to Anna, check her out. And again, Anna, thank you so much for being a guest on
Yeah.
my podcast. I really appreciate you, and of course, to all of my guests. But I appreciate every single one of you who's come on, who's bravely shared their story, their journey, and their truth that heals. So, people in the audience, please feel free to like, share, subscribe to this channel, and please, if you will like, on Spotify or on Apple, please give some stars, some reviews to help it out. That would also just help me out so much. And if you would like to help me out a little bit more, you can do so by buying me a coffee. And sadly, I have tea at the moment. I'm all out of coffee, so I might need some help. But you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/truth.h7. That helps me to keep the podcast going, helps me to pay for things like for the Zoom, for like the AI softwares that I'm using to make these episodes available to you and to put it out there like in shorts for YouTube, for TikTok, for Instagram. It's a lot of work, so I really appreciate if you can all also help me out. Anyways, thank you so much to the audience. Love all of you. And to Anna, thank you so much for being a guest
Thanks again,
on the
Ryan.
podcast.